Hi everyone, welcome back to my studio with Nikki Creations. I wanted to put together a quick video for you to help you when it comes to actually transferring an image onto some watercolour paper before you start applying the watercolours. Now, one thing I find a lot of people find quite tricky when they first start out is being able to do the initial outline drawing. So I've got a really quick and easy way of doing this without worrying whether or not you're a good artist or worrying whether or not you can actually do the pencil sketch outline. So that will come in time when you build confidence, but to begin with, to help you really focus on using those watercolours, if you can find a really good quick way of transferring an image onto a page without all the headache of worrying about proportion and scale, then this is a great way of doing it. So we use a transfer technique, and I'll talk you through how to do that. And we will be transferring this particular image, of which I will be doing the full tutorial on how to paint this image in watercolour later. So look out for that one. And it will then transfer, hopefully you can see it on there like that. I will show you how to actually transfer that image onto your watercolour paper, ready to then apply your watercolours. So follow along. If you've got any comments or you need any help, just let me know. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, then you'll be able to get notifications come through, and there'll be lots more helpful hints and tips to help you along your way when it comes to your watercolour journey. So good luck, enjoy, and yeah, have fun. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is get the materials that you're going to need to transfer your image. So I've got the photo here that I want to have a go at transferring. So it's this beautiful butterfly. I'm going to go for an A5 size with this particular piece, but you can print them out any size you wish. Now, what I then do, so the way in which I will transfer this outline onto my watercolour paper before I then start the painting. So what I've done here is I've printed off my picture. So on my computer, I've made it the size I want it to be. I've then printed it off. So this is my A5 size. So as you can see here, it will fit perfectly over the piece of watercolour paper that I've got. And what I'm going to do, so the way in which I create a copy, now often I find that if somebody is wanting to create an outline sketch before they start applying the watercolour, if they're not used to drawing, it can be really daunting to know where to start when it comes to sketching that outline. And if the outline isn't right from the start, often it then puts you off and you don't want to do any watercolour work. So this is a really easy way of copying the image onto the paper, and I'll show you how to do it. So what I've done here is I have printed off my picture, the size that I wanted, as I showed you before, and I'm going to create like a carbon paper. Now you can buy carbon paper in that in order to actually transfer an image, but this is a really cheap and easy way of doing it at home. So I printed it off on regular printer paper, nothing special. What I will then do is turn over the picture onto the back. Now I'm lucky on here, I can see the picture through the back. I don't know if you can see that on the actual screen or not. And what I want to do is, using a pencil, I've got a 6B pencil here, but as long as it's a nice sort of dark coloured graphite, you'll find that it will cover the back. And what I'm doing is I'm creating a carbon back. Excuse the noise in the background, that's my printer deciding to talk to me. So I'm scribbling that graphite pencil onto the back of my paper. Doesn't have to be neat. The most important thing is that I'm covering over on the reverse the areas that I want to then transfer onto my watercolour paper. There we go. Now, if you cannot see the image coming through your paper so easily, what you can do is start scribbling away with your graphite, And then if you hold it up to the light, you'll find, I don't know if it'll work on here, but you'll find if you hold it up to the light coming through the window, coming through from a light in the room, you'll be able to see the image actually reflecting through the paper. So you'll be able to see then if you've covered up the picture that you want to actually transfer. So what I've now done is created that carbon backing. And so I can now transfer that picture onto here. And all I then literally do is switch it over, line it up to where I want it to be on my paper. Now the most important thing here is you don't want it to now move. So if you use whatever hand you don't draw with to actually hold it in place, and use your other hand to then obviously draw your outline. So with the little butterfly here, I'm going to now slowly go over. Now, if you're unsure as to how much pressure, because you do want to put a little bit of pressure onto your pencil to transfer the actual image, if you're unsure as to how much pressure to apply, do a little bit like I've done here, and then use this hand to keep the paper in place, and very gently with the other just pull it back. And can you see how it's now starting to transfer the image through? So I know I'm putting the right amount of pressure on. So now I'll put that back down and I will continue. Now what I want to be doing here is all the hard work you're going to be doing when it comes to using the watercolours, which is obviously putting that beautiful colour and texture onto your butterfly. But what you want to do when you sketch an outline, whether it's freehand or whether it's using this method or another method that you may have found, you want to just put it in those key areas with the pencil so that you know where to paint basically when it comes to applying your watercolours. So I want to obviously pick out these key areas here. So you can see you've got where the orange and the black sections are on this beautiful butterfly. So I'm going to outline those. I also want to outline where these lovely lines come on the wing. So I know where to then paint in all that detail later with the watercolour. You've got the area here between the black and the white sections. So I'm going to draw an outline onto there as well. There we are. And take your time with this, particularly if it's a bit more of a detailed image that you're working from. If it's something quite complex, you really want to spend a good bit of time sketching that outline and being happy with it. Because if your outline's right, then it's going to make your life so much easier when it comes to actually applying the watercolour. You're going to know exactly where to put it. It also really helps you to start looking. Now, when I do my art classes and my tutorials, I often say to people, particularly if they've never really done art or painting before, one of the most important things I think when it comes to starting out and being an artist is to actually teach your eyes to look at things and notice things and see that minute detail. And particularly for me, because I like to try and depict that as much as possible in my paintings. So if you can actually notice and then copy down basically that detail that you're seeing that nature's created, then your artwork's going to look a lot more authentic. It's going to look a lot more like the subject it is in which you want to paint and what you want it to actually look like. So taking that time to really look, and you're bound to find that probably for the first time you're now looking at the animal or the insect or whatever it is that you're drawing in a very different light. You're noticing things and little details and little changes of colour that you may have never ever noticed before, and you'll be able to then start including that when it comes to you doing your painting. and it will help you to then notice those subtle changes in colour and tone and shade and what they call the values when it comes to you actually creating your final painting. And you'll find that the more you do this technique, the more confident you'll become with using a pencil, using proportion, being able to get things in the right place. And when you're ready, you can then start to actually draw your outlines freehand and have a go. Give it a try. Don't be scared. Give it a whirl. I know it can be so daunting, and often I find when I do the art classes as well, particularly if it's people that have never ever painted or haven't painted for a very long time, they often say to me the hardest thing is to make that first mark on the page. It can be really nerve-wracking because so many times you don't want to go wrong. You want to make sure you do it right. Of course you do. But equally, don't feel that you have to put yourself under loads of pressure. And half the fun for me is learning, giving it a go, trying out new things and seeing what happens. And I think that's the beauty with watercolours as well, is the fact that yes, you'll have an idea of what you want it to look like when you finish the painting, but equally as well, it's quite fun to see what happens. You know, experiment with mixing colours, experiment with how you put the paint on the page. And sometimes I found, anyway, myself, that happy accidents. You know, you'll try something that you've never done before, and all of a sudden you think, oh, actually, I quite like that. It looks quite cool. I'm going to try that again next time when I do another painting. And that is the whole beauty of learning to paint or learning to be creative and allowing yourself to experiment and try out different materials and different techniques. It's the joy that you get from painting and creating a picture, no matter what it looks like at the end of the day. Now you can see here I've finished going around the outline of the butterfly, and I'm now going around the outline of this beautiful flower, which looks a bit like a thistle, but I don't think it actually is. It could be a cornflower, but always pop it in the comments. You can let me know exactly what it is. If you know, I'm sure there's some of you wonderful botanical people out there that will know way more than I do. So what you can now do is, before you take away your whole picture, I'm just going to gently flick it to one side, and there, look, you can see it started to transfer the image through. Now if there's ever any areas on there you think, oh actually I didn't go over it heavy enough, or it's not picked out enough detail, then just gently put it back where it was, go back over those areas, press a little harder this time, and then you can just double check that you've managed to go around all those key areas that you need to outline in order to do your picture. And so that's why I said take your time with it, work your way around, check out the head first, make sure you're happy with it, then check out the wing, make sure you're happy with it, and then finally, when you know you've got enough outline there to work from, then you can be really brave and just remove your original picture, pop it to one side, and there you have it. That's a really simple, easy way of transferring your image, ready for you to then apply the watercolour. So good luck with it. If you've got any questions, drop it into the comments, yeah, I'll be happy to help you out if you need a little bit of help along the way. Good luck.